Okay, wow, it is clear that these guys know and play ARPGs. We just got a 1 hour, 20 long minute video dropped on the Path of Exile YouTube channel. And I've watched through the whole thing twice actually, and I've been absolutely blown away by what they are showing us. I'm going to try and break the whole video down into a much easier to digest, roughly 10-minute recap. But I highly suggest watching the whole thing on their channel if you get the time. 10 minutes into the video is where we get our first look at what POE2 has to offer, with several people hanging from the gallows. This is our brand new character creation screen, and it's super dark and I love this already. We're informed that although yes, 12 classes have already been confirmed, the early access part of the game will only give us access to 6. These are the Mercenary, Monk, Witch, Ranger, Warrior and Sorceress. And I'll be honest, I'm really struggling to pick a class. They all look really different and I kind of want to play them all, but I think I'm leaning more towards either the Monk or the Witch. Every class will eventually have 3 ascensions, but during early access we're only going to get 2 for each class. These drastically change how your class plays, and I'll use the Sorceress as an example. Her first ascension is called the Stormweaver, which they say is a master of the elements, leaning heavily into extra passive damage through things like shock. But her other option is a master at manipulating time, the Chronomancer. She can stop time as well as rewinding it to reset her cooldowns and teleport her back to a previous location. This is super cool. To become Ascended, players will have to go through Ascendancy trials that seem very similar, but different to the original trials in Path of Exile 1. One of the trials will require a coin to enter, but not just any coin. Players must hunt down a djinn and trap its soul within a coin. Within the trial, every room has its own challenges. The one they showed off required elite enemies to be killed, allowing a chalice to be filled with blood. Not only that, but we have a weird honour system. Getting hit will actually hurt you, but also reduce your honour. If you lose all your honour, you'll fail the trial. I'm not sure on this mechanic. I don't think it's needed. And to me, I feel like some classes are going to have a much easier time than this. Compare something like a summoner to a melee character. The summoner is going to have a lot easier time clearing these. Let's move on though, and let's talk about skills and support gems. I didn't cover this in my last video because I wanted to get more information, and I was going to wait till I got a hands-on, but I think I understand how it works now. But I'm not 100% sure. At some points during your journey you'll get these uncut skill gems, and you can right click them and unlock a skill. But during this video what they really go over are the support gems. These gems can be used to empower your skills. The example they used was multiple projectiles, which they claim can be added to any skill. In the video they demonstrated it being used with a grenade launcher skill, changing it from firing a single grenade to 3 grenades. Essentially, they said if it sounds like it can work, it will work. They then demonstrate how you can freely move the support gem to work on any of your other skills instead, but they did say you can only have 1 of each support gem in use, so you need to choose wisely what skill to attach it to. The super useful thing for new players is the recommended tab, that shows you great combinations early on. Though if you're up for experimenting, you can untick the recommended option and freely see every skill and what support gem works with each one of them. Personally, I always love when games give you the information and tools in the game. Nothing feels worse than having 10 tabs open relating to a single piece of information. Looking at you, RuneScape. In my last video discussing POE2, I said that their biggest barrier to entry for new players was their passive skill tree, and thankfully they dedicated a whole section of the video to it. They said that there are over 1500 nodes to choose from here, which I think is actually about the same size as Path of Exile 1. The devs say not to be too worried about this as you can't really go wrong, but I do believe you can go wrong, and I think it's not necessarily difficult to do, assuming that it's very similar to how the first game worked. However, they have done something that completely negates this barrier. They've introduced, drumroll please, gold! We actually have a currency in Path of Exile 2, which they later on said is the only thing in Path of Exile 2 which is either character or account bound and is not tradable. You can refund passive for what they say is a little bit of gold, and in the video it was costing them around 100 gold per refund, while they were sitting on about 4,500 gold. Though looking at their potions, this was at a very low level. Later on in the video there were parts where it cost over 300 gold and they only had 2,500 gold, so we'll have to see how expensive it truly is. That being said, I think this is a huge step in the right direction, and it now makes it a lot easier to experiment and play around, which completely reduces the stress and worries of ruining hours and hours of progress. Not only that, but they've changed how the small stat nodes work between the major nodes. They no longer give a fixed stat, but actually we get to pick what stat they give. This is a super simple and a super basic change, but I think it's really impactful. Later on they show there are even gem slots in the skill tree, just like in the first game. And also like Path of Exile 1, some gems only serve to boost the effects of the nodes in its radius. I'm starting to see why the game got delayed, but honestly, there is so much more to talk about. They briefly touched on crafting, demonstrating upgrading a magic level item to have more substats, and eventually turning it into a rare item, and even going as far as using exalted orbs on it to upgrade it further. They did this because they wanted new players to feel more at ease with using these gems, so they increased the drop rate dramatically in an attempt to allow players to upgrade their gear with these gems as they go through the campaign, and not feel like they have to save it for higher level items. They've also added various vendors throughout the game. Some of these you can sell your magic and rare items to, in exchange for regal and transmutation shards, that will eventually become orbs. Sockets seem to work differently in Path of Exile 2 as well. With skills no longer being socketed, it frees up the slots for runes, that can be added for defensive or offensive bonuses. However, if you come across a socketed item and it's no good, you can salvage it and slowly work towards something called the Artificer's Orb, which can be used to add more sockets onto either a weapon or a piece of armour. The same can be said for quality items, as dismantling these will reward you with quality improving stones. And lastly, you can always sell spare items to vendors for gold. Gold seems to have a few uses, one of which we've already talked about, which is refunding passive skills. They have also said though it can be used to buy gear off another vendor, which they claim should sell useful gear and even get new stock every time you level up. They briefly showed off a randomized merchant whose gear could be of any rarity. However, there is also a player-to-player marketplace, allowing players to trade one type of currency for another type of currency at the cost of a small gold fee. Though don't worry, there is still regular player-to-player trading if you'd prefer. Let's finally talk about gameplay and what there is to do. Acts 1 to 3 is what we'll be seeing, as the developers are clearly true ARPG players and know that we need an endgame. Once the game fully releases, we'll clear Acts 1 to 6 before entering the endgame, but for now we'll be doing Acts 1 to 3 and essentially Acts 1 to 3 in hard mode straight after, before entering the endgame. Back when I first played Path of Exile 1, this is exactly how it used to work, except I think you had to beat the campaign 3 times. They claim it should take around 25 hours to beat the first 3 acts on normal mode, but by hard mode, you'll have a much faster clear time, so it shouldn't take you anywhere near as long, allowing you to enter the endgame at around level 65. The core of the endgame is the Infinite Atlas, where it seems our goal is to clear the corruption that's taken hold. We start at what seems the centre, where a Vowel Temple sits. We use a map device to open an instance dungeon of whatever tier Waystone was used. Apparently every map will feel quite different thanks to their 400 plus monster types launching in early access. To clear an area and advance through the Atlas, you'll need to defeat every unique boss within the area. Dying will result in failing the map, meaning that node can never be accessed again, leaving you forced to find another route to get to your destination. Oh, and of course, as you clear the Atlas, you'll be earning Atlas passive skill points to stick in yet another tree. This is where it becomes super clear that Path of Exile 2 is not a small game, and their use of the word early access puts every other early access title to shame. The amount of leagues from Path of Exile that have a hand in Path of Exile 2 is absurd. There are shrines that the Path of Exile wiki claims aren't from a league, but they definitely weren't in the game when I first played. Other than that, we've got strong boxes from the Ambush League, essences from the Essence League, breaches, delirium, expedition, and one of my favourites of all time, Ultimatum! During the Ultimatum League, I played a really cool steel build, and it was one of the funnest moments in my entire gaming career. I get that it's not the biggest league, I get there's no really awesome mechanic, but the mechanic that was added is simple, it's extremely fast paced and super fun. But in Path of Exile 2 it looks like it plays a much bigger role, being part of the actual Ascension trials. And while there is plenty more to talk about, I feel like we've covered the main talking points, all except for the supporter packs. If you want entry to just Path of Exile 2 and you haven't spent $480 or more in Path of Exile 1, it will cost you $30, which is about £25 for us Brits. You can already purchase these packs on Steam, and I believe the cosmetics work right now in Path of Exile 1. The basic supporter pack comes with a basic Kiwi, whereas the more expensive packs come with armor skins, weapon skins, and more flashy Kiwi pets. These are all cosmetics, and despite some of the packs being extremely expensive, I think it's completely fine. And that's just because I have full faith in GGG. If you are interested in buying a more expensive pack, you should know that everything in the previous packs are also included. I myself will be buying the cheapest pack because that's all you need, and be ready to download and play on the release date. Anyway, what do you all think of what they've shown off? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you very much for listening, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.